Imagine this. You're a young Greek dude named Xenophon, hanging out in Athens, probably sipping some wine and debating philosophy with your buddy Socrates. Life's chill, right? Then, out of nowhere, you get roped into joining a massive crew. 10,000 Greek mercenaries, hired by a Persian prince with big dreams named Cyrus the Younger. The mission? March deep into the heart of the Persian Empire. Take down his brother, King Artaxerxes II, and plop Cyrus on the throne. Sounds like a crazy adventure. Yeah? Well, it gets crazier. The plan goes sideways, Cyrus bites the dust, and suddenly you're stuck in enemy territory, thousands of miles from home, with no leader, no supplies, and a whole lot of pissed-off Persians gunning for you. What do? If you're Xenophon, you step up, rally the troops, and lead them on one of the most insane survival marches in history, 1,500 miles back to the safety of the Black Sea. Oh, and then you write a book about it that's so epic, it's still blowing minds 2,400 years later. That's the Persian Expedition, also known as the March of the 10,000 or Anabasis. It's not just a history lesson, it's a roller coaster of human grit, clever strategy, and moments that'll make you go, no way that actually happened. I'm gonna unpack this beast for you, from the nail-biting plot to the guy behind the pen, Xenophon himself. We'll cover what makes it tick, why he wrote it, what people love about it, and even the nitty-gritty like page counts and prices. Plus, I'll toss in some extra spicy details to keep you hooked. Let's roll. The Persian Expedition is Xenophon's first-hand account of this wild military adventure that went down around 401, 399 BC. Picture a ragtag army of 10,000 Greek hoplites, heavy infantry dudes armed with spears and shields, signing up to fight for Cyrus the Younger, a Persian prince who's got his eye on his big brother's throne. Artaxerxes II is the great king of Persia, ruling over this massive empire stretching from India to Egypt, and Cyrus is like, nah, I'd look better with that crown. He hires these Greeks because they're tough as nails, fresh off the Peloponnesian War, and they're looking for some cash and glory. The book kicks off with Cyrus gathering his forces in Sardis, a city in what's now Western Turkey. He's got this mixed bag of troops, Greeks, Persians, and other mercenaries, and he's spinning a bit of a lie, telling the Greeks they're just going to smack down some local rebels. Sneaky, right? But as they march deeper into Persia, hundreds of miles through deserts, rivers, and mountains, it dawns on them, oh crap, we're actually going after the freaking king. The big showdown happens at Cunaxa, near Babylon. The Greeks totally crush their side of the battle, but Cyrus gets reckless, charges at Artaxerxes, and, bam, takes an arrow to the chest. Dead. Game over for his coup. Now here's where it gets nuts. The Greeks are stranded in the middle of Mesopotamia, surrounded by enemies, and their Persian allies ditch them faster than you can say see ya. Worse, their top generals, like the Spartan badass Clearchus, get lured into a fake peace talk by a slimy Persian satrap named Tissaphernes, who promptly captures and executes them. Picture it, 10,000 guys, no leaders, stuck in hostile territory, with a massive Persian army breathing down their necks. Most folks would have waved the white flag, but not these dudes. They elect new leaders, and Xenophon, our boy, steps up as one of them. What follows is this insane trek north, over snowy mountains, through freezing rivers, and past tribes who'd rather skewer them than say hello. They're starving, fighting, and just trying to make it to the Black Sea, where Greek colonies mean safety. And when they finally spot the sea, they lose their minds shouting, Thalatta, Thalatta. It's chills down your spine stuff. The book's split into 7 parts, or books, in the classic Greek style. It's not just a war story, it's a survival saga, a leadership masterclass, and a peek into what happens when a bunch of Greeks clash with the barbarian world. Xenophon's writing it all down years later, around 370 BC, and he's telling it in this cool, third-person vibe. Like Xenophon did this instead of I did this. Why? We'll get to that. But trust me, it's a page-turner that's got everything: battles, betrayal, snowy death marches, and even some philosophizing thrown in there. Let's talk about the man behind the madness, Xenophon. Born around 431 BC in Athens, he's not your average soldier boy. He's a nobleman's kid, growing up in a city that's all about democracy, art, and brainy stuff. He's tight with Socrates. Yep, the Socrates, the sandal-wearing philosopher who's always asking big questions. Xenophon's probably sitting there soaking up wisdom when he's not training to fight. But Athens in his day, it's a mess. The Peloponnesian War is tearing Greece apart, and by the time it ends, Athens loses hard to Sparta. Xenophon's not super into the democracy scene. He's got a soft spot for Sparta's disciplined, kick-ass vibe, which gets him in hot water later. So in 401 BC, when his buddy Proxenus invites him to join this Persian gig with Cyrus, Xenophon's like, why not? He's not a general or even an officer, just a curious Athenian tagging along. Socrates warns him it might piss off Athens, but Xenophon's too pumped to care. Fast forward through the expedition, and he's not just a tag-along anymore. He's a leader, a hero, and eventually a writer who immortalizes the whole thing. After the march, Xenophon's life stays wild. He hooks up with Spartan forces, fights against Athens, and gets banished from his hometown as a traitor. He settles down in the Peloponnese on an estate gifted by Sparta, living the good life, hunting, writing, and raising a family. He's not just a one-hit wonder either. He writes a ton, Hellenica, Cyropedia, and even Socratic dialogues like Plato. Dude's a soldier scholar with a knack for clear, no BS writing that makes ancient Greek feel approachable, even for newbies. Xenophon dies around 354 BC, but his legacy? Massive. He's not just a historian, he's a storyteller, a tactician, and a guy who's not afraid to call it like he sees it. The Persian Expedition is his crown jewel, and it's got his fingerprints all over it. Practical, gritty, and full of that Socratic, let's think this through energy. Okay, let's dig into the juiciest bits of the Persian Expedition. This isn't a dry textbook, it's a living, breathing story. Here's the rundown of the big stuff, with all the gritty details, the setup. Cyrus is building his army in Sardis, and Xenophon's painting the scene, troops from all over Greece, Persian allies, and a vibe of we're gonna get rich. The march starts smooth, but the Greeks figure out Cyrus's real plan when they hit Tarsus. They're pissed, but he bribes them with more cash. Classic move. The Battle of Cunaxa. This is the climax of the first act. They march 1,500 miles to Babylon, and the Greeks smash the Persian left flank. Xenophon says only one guy got nicked by an arrow. But Cyrus screws it up, chasing Artaxerxes and dying in the chaos. The Greeks are clueless at first, thinking they've won, until the bad news hits. The betrayal. Post-battle, the Greeks are lost. Clearchus tries to negotiate with Tissaphernes, who's all smiles and promises. Then bam, he traps and kills the top 5 generals. It's a gut punch. The army's freaking out, but they rally, elect new leaders, and decide to fight their way out. The long haul. This is the heart of the story, the march north. They're dodging Persian cavalry, crossing rivers like the Euphrates, and hitting snowy Armenian mountains where blizzards kill more guys than swords do. Xenophon's leading the rear guard, pulling off sneaky tactics like night marches to outsmart tribes like the Carduchians, who roll boulders down on them. Starvation's a real threat. They're eating whatever they can loot. The sea. The sea. After months of hell, they climb Mount Thex and spot the Black Sea. The Thalatta. The Thalatta. Moment is pure euphoria. Xenophon captures the raw emotion of guys who thought they'd never make it. 5 out of 6 survive, which is nuts given the odds. The home stretch. It's not over yet. The Black Sea coast has Greek cities, but some are hostile. They split into factions, fight local warlords, and Xenophon even considers starting a colony. Eventually, he joins a Spartan army under Thybron, wrapping up the tale. The vibe? It's tense, raw, and human. You feel the exhaustion, the fear, the hope. Xenophon's not shy about showing the messy stuff. Soldiers arguing, panicking, or getting drunk when they find wine. It's a masterclass in leadership. Too, he's constantly rallying the troops with speeches, figuring out logistics, and keeping morale up. So, why does Xenophon sit down years later to pen this epic? It's not just to brag. Scholars figure he's got a few goals to set the record straight. Xenophon's name got dragged by some contemporaries who said he exaggerated his role. Writing in third person might be his way of saying, this ain't just my story, it's the story. He's defending his honor and the 10,000's legacy. A leadership manual. The book's dripping with lessons. How to lead when everything's falling apart. How to adapt. How to keep a group together. Xenophon's a Socratic guy. He's showing how reason and courage win out over chaos. Greek pride. After the Peloponnesian War, Greece is beat up. Xenophon's like, look, we're still badass. The 10,000 success against Persia pumps up Greek mojo, hinting they could take on the empire someday. A damn good yarn. Let's be real. Xenophon knows he's got a banger of a tale. It's got drama, stakes, and a happy-ish ending. He's writing for posterity and it works. People still read it millennia later. The main message? Resilience, baby. It's about facing impossible odds and clawing your way through. Xenophon's saying, life's gonna throw crap at you, but with grit and smarts, you can make it. It's timeless. All right, let's get real about the Persian expedition. It's not perfect, nothing is, but it's got a lot going for it. Here's the breakdown, pros and cons, no filter. It's a freaking thrill ride. This ain't a snooze fest history book. The pacing's tight, the stakes are sky high, and you're rooting for these underdogs the whole way. That Thalatta scene? Goosebumps every time. Xenophon's voice. He writes in this clear, no-nonsense style that's easy to follow, even in translation. Guys like Rex Warner or Robin Waterfield make it feel modern without losing the vibe. History you can feel. It's a primary source, dude. Xenophon was there. You're getting the dirt, the sweat, the fear straight from the guy who lived it, not some historian guessing centuries later. Leadership goals. Military buffs and leadership nerds love it. Xenophon's juggling morale, strategy, and logistics like a pro. Some say it inspired folks like General Sherman in the Civil War, or even the movie The Warriors, a gang fighting home through NYC. Total Xenophon vibes. Cultural clash. It's a window into how Greeks saw the barbarian East. Persians, Kurds, Armenians. Xenophon's not exactly woke by today's standards, but it's a raw look at that ancient mindset. Is he full of it? Some folks, ancient and modern, call BS on Xenophon. Did he really play that big a role? Other accounts don't match up perfectly. He might have juiced his heroics a bit. Third-person weirdness. Writing Xenophon said this instead of I said this feels odd. Is he dodging accountability or just being humble? It throws some readers off. Greek bias. He's got this Greeks rule, Persians drool attitude. Fair enough for his time, but it's not exactly nuanced. The Persians aren't just faceless bad guys, they had a dope empire, but Xenophon doesn't dig deep. Dry patches. Look, most of it's gripping, but there are spots, like troop counts or random geography, where your eyes glaze over. It's not all heart-pounding action. Moral gray zone. Xenophon's cool with looting and burning villages to survive. Modern readers might squirm at the ethics, but back then, that's just war. Overall, it's a classic for a reason. The flaws don't kill the vibe. They just remind you it's a product of its time. If you're into history, adventure, or leadership, it's a must-read. If you want polished perfection, maybe not your jam. Let's get practical. The Persian Expedition isn't some massive tome, it's lean and mean. Most editions clock in around 250, 300 pages, depending on intros, notes, and maps. It's 7 books, but they're shortish by ancient standards. Think novella-length chunks. Price-wise, it's a steal for what you get. Penguin Classics paperback. Around $12, $15 US. Rex Warner's translation is smooth, and Cockwell's intro is gold. Oxford World's Classics, $10, $13 US. Robin Waterfield's version has killer footnotes if you're a nerd for details. Audiobook. Naxos Audiobooks has a 7.5-hour version narrated by David Timpson, $20, $25 US. Perfect for road trips. Ebook. Kindle's got it for $8, $10 US. Whisper Sync with audio's a nice perk. Fancy hardcovers, like the Landmark edition with maps and extras, $40, $50 US, but worth it for hardcore fans. You can snag it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or indie bookstores. Use copies? Check Aid Books. Sometimes you score a beat-up penguin for $5. Libraries often have it too, 'cause it's a staple. Alright, here's some bonus flavor to keep you hooked. Alexander the Great vibes. Some say Xenophon's tale inspired Philip of Macedon to think, hey, we could totally take Persia. 2 generations later, Alexander does, and the Hellenistic world is born. Indirectly, this book helped shape history. Pop culture echoes. Beyond the warriors, think about any story where a group stranded and fighting home. Lord of the Rings trek to Mordor, even The Walking Dead. Xenophon's DNA is in there. Exolano Day. In the 1800s, American Greek students turned March 4th into Exolano Day because of Xenophon's Exolano obsession. Nerdy but cute. Socrates cameo. Early in the book, Xenophon chats with Socrates about joining the expedition. Socrates is all, dude, check with the oracle. It's a tiny moment, but it ties Xenophon's brainy side to the action. Real-life grit. The march's route, Sardis to Babylon, then north through modern Iraq, Turkey, Armenia, is brutal even today. Scholars still debate the exact path, but it's a testament to their toughness. Why does it matter in 2025? Because it's not just old news, it's about human nature. Leadership under pressure, surviving chaos, sticking together when the world's against you, that's universal. Plus, with Middle East tension still a thing, it's wild to see how little some dynamics have changed. So after all this, what's the verdict? Hell yeah, you should read The Persian Expedition. It's a blast from the past that still hits hard, part war epic, part survival tale, part how to not lose your shit guide. Xenophon's a dude you'd want in your corner, and his story's got heart, guts, and a killer payoff. Sure, it's got quirks, his ego might have fluffed some details, and it's not always PC, but that's part of the charm. Grab a copy, sink into it, and imagine you're trudging through that snow with the 10,000. You won't regret it.